All right, moving on to the next step. Part 3, attach a base. There we go. So as you can see here, we're literally attaching the bottom part to the cup. So this image represents the most simple base, but I'm going to show you guys a more elaborate base. This one's pretty straightforward, right? You're going to obviously cut out a circular shaped slab and score and slip your cylinder on top of it. So you would, step A, roll out a small slab of clay and smooth both sides. Pretty straightforward, right? Step B, cut out a circular base large enough for your cylinder to be placed on top. Step C, score, slip, and attach the cylinder onto the base, just as seen here. And then step D, of course, smooth the seam inside and out. Very straightforward. What I'm going to do is show you guys a slightly different one. So the way I'm going to start this one is the same way I would start it to get this. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this squared off base. So it's how you can take a circular cup and put it on a square shaped base. So step 1 is we're going to have to make this cylinder taper at the bottom, just like this cup right here. The way we do that is we're going to flip our clay or cup upside down, so we're working on the bottom of it. And we are going to cut in 4 notches. So I'm going to need my X-Acto knife, which is right over, it's gone. So I'm going to need my X-Acto knife. These 4 notches are basically going to be 4 triangular shaped notches distanced equally along the top edge. I'm going to avoid doing one on the seam that I just fixed, because right now, since there's still fresh slip there, that's kind of a weak point in my project. So I want to avoid that area. Okay. So when I make these notches, for now, I'm just carving a... So when I make these notches, for now, I'm just taking the X-Acto knife, pointing it towards the very center of my project. That's important. And slicing downwards. I'm going to go about 3/4 of an inch. No, I'll make it taller. I'll go about an inch. It's important to make sure that all of them are that same length and that they're all perfectly across from each other. So since we're doing 4, there's going to be one perfectly straight across from that one, which is right about here. So again, I'm going to slice through it about an inch and pull out the X-Acto knife. Now, there's a lot of ways you can make this as perfect as possible for those of you guys that are perfectionists with measurements and whatnot. Okay, I've now put in my 4 equally spaced notches. Now I'm going to make each of these notches cut into a triangular shape. Again, when I slice out this triangular shape, my X-Acto knife should always be pointing towards the very middle of the cup. That's going to make sure that these notches will end up lining up correctly. Okay, so I got my X-Acto knife in a spot. I'm angling it inward to start making 1/2 of my triangle. And then the other side to make the other half, and I'll show you it in just a second. Okay, so that's 1 notch. Now I'm going to do the one opposite of it. Again, angling towards the center. Okay, so I've now cut out 4 triangular shaped notches in the bottom of my cup. Next, what I'm going to do for this method is I'm going to score and slip inside each of these triangles, and I'll show you when I'm done with that. Okay, I've now scored and slipped inside all 4 of my triangles, and again, this is for the optional squared off base. Now I'm going to start slowly cupping in the top. Well, I guess technically this is the bottom, but cupping it in Again, you want to make sure your clay is the correct level of dryness for this. If it's too soft, you're going to ruin your design. If it's too hard, it's definitely going to crack and break along these areas where it's bending inwards. So again, take your time on this. You should get it to the point where all of these 4 seams then line up. I'm going to finish up this step and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, I've now gotten them where they all line up, and now I have a very nice perfect square right in the middle. I'm just going to keep fine tuning by really pushing together these seams until all the slip kind of comes out the top of them, and I can use that slip to kind of blend that edge just like that. And moving on to the next one, pushing the ends together until all the slip comes out the top, and then use that slip to clean it up. And then on to the next. I'll show you when I'm done with this step. Okay, so I've now blended all the outsides together. I also recommend, while you have the bottom of your cup open, that you reach inside and blend those inner seams. It's going to be easier right now since they're accessible than after you put the base on, when they become at the very bottom of your cup again. Okay, so I blended up my seams. Next, I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm going to make this whole area flat. You see how it's kind of up at an angle? I'm going to shave off this top lip that kind of points out going all along the edge. Okay, so now this is all shaved off, nice, level, and even. That way, when we attach a base to it, it'll actually attach well, and it could attach to this whole surface area, which is going to be really nice. Let me kind of smooth that all out. Okay, so next, this is when this project kind of lines up with the other, the more simple method that I was talking about, when we simply make a base and attach it. So for the simple one, we didn't do anything that we just did now. We just had the cylinder and we attached it to a circle. For the method I'm showing you guys right now, we are going to attach it to a square. So I'm going to take a slab of clay and cut out a square that'll extend a little past where the base of my cup is currently at. I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so now I have my square that I'm going to attach as my base on my cup. I am going to choose to kind of bevel, or I guess you could call it shave, the edges at a bit of a diagonal. I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm just using a rib tool to kind of go along the edges and shave it down at a bit of an angle. You can kind of see it. So it looks slightly different than the others. This is it head on. I'm going to do the rest to the other sides, and I'm also going to kind of cut off the corners a bit, again, as my own personal choice, and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so now I've made my base. As mentioned, I cut off the corners to it, and I'm going to attach it to the bottom of my cup, which is currently the top, as you guys know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score and slip all of this, and then I'm also going to score and slip exactly where it's going to attach on the base. Now you might be wondering, but Miss Singleton, how am I going to know exactly where it's going to attach on the base? This is my trick to how I can figure it out. What I do is I make a marking of it, an impression of it. And how I do that is I throw some slip, just for funsies, on this edge of the cup, and then I set this exactly where I plan to attach it. This way, when I take it off, oh shoot, I'm making a mess. Let's try that again. This way, when I take it off, I have, probably hard to see on the projector, but a little bit of marking on exactly where it's going to attach. All right, so I'm going to score and slip this, and I'm going to score and slip this, and then I'm going to attach it, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, I have scored and slipped both sides. Now I'm going to line this up as perfect as can be. I'm carefully going to press down. Now when I flip this right side up, I can see that my base is attached to my cup. I'm going to kind of clean up these areas a little bit with a little bit of slip on a paintbrush, and I'll show you how all of this looks when I'm done with that. So the inside seam after you attach the base is something that also has to be addressed, and this, if anything, is also one of the most important seams there because it's at the very bottom. Your cup can literally not hold liquid if there are cracks at the base of it. The cracks won't show up right away, they'll show up as it's drying. So it's very important that you blend the... Grover, stop! So you'll also need to attend to the inside seam where the base attached to your cup. You're going to need to get in there with some tools and really make sure that everything's attached well by pushing down into the seam, the clay into that crevice to make sure it's all filled up. It's going to go beyond more than just taking a paintbrush and putting it in there and blending it. You're really going to need to work the clay in to fill that seam. It's very important because if you do end up not attaching it well, then it'll end up cracking and breaking as it's drying. And if any seam is really important to be mended in a cup, it's the very bottom seam, because it's without that seam being intact, it literally cannot hold any liquid. So take time to blend together all of the seam inside with a tool, even if it looks kind of rough at first, and then get in there with something softer like a paintbrush to really fine tune it. Okay, I've nicely attached the base to my cup. It looks great on the outside, and you won't be able to see with this lighting, but it looks great on the inside as well. You can't see the seams anymore, they're blended up really nicely.